live stream. This is actually a new experiment, and let's see how this goes. We are streaming live to YouTube and to X. Okay, this seems to work. Okay, guys, I'm testing this out right now. Oh, that's nice. I'm live here. So this is a new format where we are streaming live. I will start in 1 second. Just give me a second. Very good. So we are live. Okay, welcome everyone to the Pioneer Pulse. I'm going to do this maybe daily, but multiple times a week now. And the reason for it, that we are kind of expanding the format, is a lot of things are happening in the world. We have the age of AGI, the age of AI turning into AGI. We have Tesla as the eye of the storm, creating amazing products, Robotaxi, Optimus, humanoid robots. And we also see at the same time in politics a global realignment through the Trump administration. We just saw the Middle East. We are now seeing Europe, Meloni, JD Vance, van der Leyen doing amazing deals. And of course, we have the tariffs. So a lot of things are happening. And as you know, we are covering all of these things with the intention and the objective to provide everyone a better understanding and a better focus on how AI is transforming our lives and what it does mean for each of us and all of us, how we capitalize on it through better investments, but also how we prepare ourselves for some major, major doom scenarios that are definitely in the cards. And we will go into that today. So this is basically our Pioneer Pulse, our little TV, daily updates that helps us to understand better what's going on. I'm aiming at 5 times a week with more live sessions, and you guys can also, comment on everything. I'm trying to manage the comments as we speak here. Let me see. We are doing this the first time, so give me some chat support. I'm trying to find out how I can get to the comments. That's going to be very tricky. Oh, chat here. If you guys put anything in the chat. Oh, here. Woohoo. Daniel is there. Zane is there. Very good. I think I got you. You're on YouTube and YouTube. Okay, forgive me because we are streaming this live to X and YouTube. So this is the first session. So there will be some technical hiccups, but I think I have the chat on. Hi, everyone. Let's see if you can see this on YouTube or if this goes to everywhere. Probably everywhere. Okay, so let's jump right into it. And today we have 3 topics. And as you will see in these live sessions, we will have multiple topics across Tesla, artificial intelligence, and the revolution that is happening, and politics as it relates to the big transformation. And today that will be some first segment on Robotaxi and how it's going to crush Uber, not Waymo, Uber. We already crushed Waymo. So now it's about ride sharing the market at large. We are going to look at a model that CERN, Basha provides, very good model, and some comments from my side on it, what it means for Tesla stock and how autonomy is going to change the world. Second, we go beyond Tesla and look at some expert warnings about AI doom, how AI is probably going to kill us all. And we are going to look into it. They did a great job in doing this. Some of the leading experts putting together a website and publishing something interesting. Maybe you've heard about it, but we will see and go in some more details, and I will comment on this. And finally, in politics, Italy tries to save Europe. Meloni invites JD Vance to meet van der Leyen in Rome, or somewhere in Italy, I assume Rome. Very interesting what's going on there. And we will look into how Starmer and Merz and some other European leaders suddenly show major, major pivots in some core policies, especially migration, probably because they got a kick in the butt by Trump or Vance. So let's jump right into it. Segment 1, why is Robotaxi going to crush Uber and boost Tesla's stock? So before we jump into that, let's just take a quick look into what Tesla is doing. We see today some problematic market news. So Tesla is down, not so much anymore, 13.52, 3.86%. The reason being that we see in pre-markets many problems because Moody's, of all people, Moody's, the failing rating agency that you probably heard about, still for some reason has some pull on the market. So they basically downgraded the US debt, which is kind of a very bad thing in the past, but right now everyone knows what's going on, that we are in a fiscal crisis in the United States. So no surprise here. I don't know who still listens to Moody's, but they want to downgrade it. You see all these major market impacts, right? You see the S&P down 1%, the Nasdaq futures down 1.4%. And of course, that drags down Tesla. So yeah, down 4% is not great, but not too surprising given this whole situation here. So I would not attribute this to any Tesla news. We saw a major run up recently, as you know, right? We were at 316 just a couple of days ago and are now at 316. But if you look back, we were all the way down here at 227. That was the bottom of this big drop over the last 6 months. And now we're going on a nice way up, moving towards Robotaxi launch in June. So that's kind of the situation here. I think this is a blip, doesn't mean much. And, macro is intact, macro situation and trends for Tesla. So I want to go into the elephant in the room, which is, of course, the Robotaxi launch in June and what it all is going to do. And there is some discussion and some commentary in the market by analysts and all kinds of people, from Gary Black to Bill Ackman and people like that. Bill Ackman is a smart investor, but he decided to take a position in Uber, take a position in Hertz, with the theory that Robotaxi is not going to grab the whole market, that there's other autonomous solutions out there, and that the market is somehow going to adjust, and that Uber is going to deliver, sitting Uber or above all these autonomy solutions. And there are many reasons to believe that this is the wrong bet by Bill Ackman, because Robotaxi is a vertically integrated solution, and a solution that has a clear technology advantage is not going to get commoditized, and Tesla is going to own that whole thing. But what does that mean? Other people say, well, even if you own it, it's not attractive because you can't make money with this, right? That the margins are too bad. And here is the situation. CERN published something very cool. Yeah, they don't have the math yet. It says Bill Me. Bill Me, I love the name. Bill Me more. And what we see here, I want to go into these numbers that CERN provides. And CERN talks about what is actually going to happen once Robotaxi is live, and what does it do on the margins. I'm going to scroll down here. This is the decisive thing that CERN came up with, some analysis. And I want to explain this because I think it's important. So what you see here is the actual cost per mile that you charge as a ride-hailing service. And you see here, the red is the Robotaxi solution, so Tesla's autonomous Robotaxi. And on the right side, you see the Uber situation. And Uber means you're paying the driver, which is the black area. And green is what Uber actually can keep. So Uber is a service. They recruit drivers. The drivers need to get paid. And here is the split. So if you charge $2.95, what you see here is, I think, the annual revenue. And what you see is Tesla makes 124,000 per year at that price point, assuming a bunch of miles you drive. And you see that Uber, assuming they make the exact same miles and the exact same money, would make 56,000. So here you already start seeing the problem. If Robotaxi starts competing against a ride-sharing service, of course, Tesla would make 124,000. The entire margin sticks with Tesla. Of course, they have to pay for COGS and everything, but Uber, same thing. And Uber makes only half of that, and the other, or less than half, and more than half goes to the driver. Okay, makes sense. $2.95 is kind of, a typical price right now that we see. If we would lower the price for a ride hailing to $2, what you see is, well, then Tesla makes 84,000 bucks. Uber makes $38,000 and the driver makes $46,000. Okay? But what happens if you drop the price to $1.50 or $1.48? And here's the interesting thing. You probably think, what the hell? Like, why is there Tesla and then there's Uber and the split between Uber and the driver at $2.95, at $2, same thing, but at $1.48? What is wrong with CERN? Why did CERN not add this column? Here's the thing. Because that column doesn't exist anymore at $1.48. Why is that? Because the driver at that point would make very little money. You know, so the driver would make $46,000, but at that point, he wouldn't be a driver anymore. He would say, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to work for $46,000 or much less at 48. I'm going to drop out. And what happens to Uber? At $38,000, they can't even cover their costs anymore. They have a lot of costs, right? Because they have to organize everything. They have to recruit all these drivers. They have to do all kinds of things. So here, what the important takeaway message is, at $1.48, we see an inflection point where you just kill Uber. The drivers are running away or driving away. They're not going to do their job anymore. And Uber can't operate anymore because they would have massive losses, which means CERN says at 148, we see this barrier that's going to just terminate Uber. Now, in my model, I'm assuming a $1 per mile revenue for a Robotaxi. So I'm going even more radically down, another 30% from 148. Why do I do that? I think CERN did a much better job than I did on shining some light into the Uber situation, how you kill the whole market for Uber. My focus with the less than $1 per mile was TAM expansion. Because what we see is at below $1, you see massively disruptive expansion of the autonomous driving market, of the ride-sharing market. Because suddenly tons and tons and tons of people, I assume 20 to 30 times the amount of people can now use that, or the amount of usage. Because at that price, you will utilize ride-sharing or autonomous ride-sharing to a much greater degree. So you're expanding the market. So there are two different arguments here that are not contradictory, but go hand in hand. CERN's argument is at 150, everyone is dead outside autonomy. That's a great argument. I think CERN is absolutely right. The competition is killed at that point. My argument is below $1, you see a 20, 30x expansion of the entire market because the entire world is going to realign to autonomy. All delivery services, all kinds of stuff is suddenly going to be autonomous. So that is very cool. So what else do we see? Well, we have basically a lot of utilization rate assumptions here. And utilization is very, very important. You basically have this trade-off. How much do you make? So if you go back up here, of course, you could say, well, why doesn't Tesla try to make 124,000 instead of 60,000? It's great to make twice as much per Robotaxi. Well, you know what's much greater than making twice as much? It's going to make half as much per Robotaxi, but having 10 times the amount of Robotaxis, so making on an absolute basis 5 times the total amount of money for Tesla. And I would argue it's even better to lower this more, another 30%. I'm getting to actually 60,000 once I go below $1, but that's debatable. And make 30 or 40 times the amount of utilization while you're making 30% less revenue. So that is the real formula. You want to optimize the area under the curve to get there. So that's kind of what's going on here. And then you can read this tweet of CERN. CERN did a great job as always. And he also talked a little bit about utilization and profit, net profit. And at 65% utilization, for example, the Robotaxi net profit of 58,000 is higher than the revenue of the ride-hail company. That's crazy. That is crazy. So think about this. For the ride-hailing company, right here at full price at $295, they're making 56,000. Think about that. They charge the consumer $295 and they make 56,000. Tesla charges half as much, 148, and makes 10,000, $6,000 more than Uber at twice the price. If you know anything about demand and margins, this is a killer. So you can cut the price in half, but still make 10% more money than your competitor makes at twice the price. That means it's game over for Uber. And so all of that comes down to the same question, right? It comes all down to the same question. Will this actually work? And can we actually achieve autonomy? Can Tesla actually scale? And can Tesla deliver this? And if they can, it is game over. So our focus now as Tesla shareholders and investors, and maybe Leap and call options holders, is all about June and Austin. And the question, will that work? Will these 10 to 20 deployed Model Ys under full autonomy that Elon is talking about at day one, will they nicely scale to 50 or 100 within 4 weeks and then go through the roof and scale to 1,000 and 2,000 and 3,000, which is the saturation point for the Austin metropolitan area? And the all decisive question, because everything we discussed now might not be fully, trickled through all the analysts on Wall Street, but there is no question it will very quickly. The CERN theory and the Joe theory, they will understand it at some point in the next 3 months. So now, once everyone gets the model, and once everyone understands, autonomy means the end of Uber. It means the 20, 30, 40-fold expansion of the market if you get below that dollar per mile cost. Everything will now come down to the question, is that actually happening now, or is it not happening now? It all comes down, and I repeatedly said that, to the question, will it work or will it not work? Will Tesla's Robotaxi actually scale and be everywhere in Austin as the first pilot city? Or will it take years and years and years for Tesla to get to these 2,000 to 3,000 Model Ys in Austin? My gut feeling, based on all the evidence we have and all the hints we have, is that it's not going to take years and years and years. We might be in a situation where this works better than people expect, that Model Y deployment will seamlessly scale in the next months, and we are at 2,000 end of the year. And if that happens, it's going to be completely game over. And the amount of money Tesla can make in margin, in EBITDA expansion, is measured in the trillions of dollars. And my model shows that very nicely. We see with my model that is exactly happening. So let's watch it very closely. And this is exactly why we need daily updates now. We need all evidence accumulated, and you guys can help. You can join pioneerlands.net. You can write in the comments. We need all boots and eyes on the ground in Austin, especially in June, when this is all happening. Now let's go into some questions here. By the way, I will work on some more exact scenarios for trading and call options this week. We'll discuss it here. We'll come up with some scenarios, like if Tesla runs up to 400 before June 1st, what does that mean? If it doesn't, what does that mean? What is the risk? Of course, we're taking significant risk if you have any short-term dependencies on your call options. Of course, we don't know if that gets delayed or not, right? So we need to be very smart and have these scenarios in mind. So before we get to the next segment, let's talk about some questions here. What do we have here? Steve, I'm from Belgium and just arrived in California. Rented a Tesla with version 13.28. You can say it's just insane. Well, Steve, congrats. That's great. Have fun in California. Darren, a lot of people rely on the income from driving for Uber. Well, Darren, I couldn't have a better transition into part 2, segment 2, where we talk about AI doom, because you're 100% right. This is going to be a complete disaster. Not for Tesla shareholders, but for many other people. So we have to just talk about this in a second. Quick answer, yes, but not without. Bill me. Tesla profits autonomy, battery optimization, energy recreation, resource mining. That's true. Danny, you probably have done a deep dive into NVIDIA already, but once you see the computer of 1 terawatt is 1.4 billion hoppers, 250, you see scale difference of AI by second hub. Again, Danny, I couldn't have asked for a better transition. This is also segment 2, 2027, Doom, ASI, and all kinds of problems. But yes, NVIDIA, I'm very bullish on NVIDIA. I just think Tesla has a higher appreciation than NVIDIA because Tesla's at the eye of the storm. But NVIDIA, perfectly positioned. Will Robotaxi be a buy the rumor, sell the news event? Well, Ace, that's exactly what we are going to cover in the scenarios because that is an excellent question. And the short answer, oh, by the way, is I see we have 199 viewers on YouTube, but 0 on X. I wonder if X has a problem. It doesn't work. But I will figure that out later. Maybe X has issues. Robotaxi will be a buy the rumor and sell the news event. Well, here's exactly what I think. I think every event to some extent is a buy the rumor and sell the news event. Here's the difference for Robotaxi. Depending on how much it runs up and depending how it starts to scale, the rumor is what is priced in before. What's priced in before is, oh, they're launching a pilot with 10 to 20 cars that establishes the ability to do ride hailing autonomously. That is what's priced in. That is the rumor you buy, and that's the news you sell. The problem is that what's not priced in is that this actually works and this actually scales. So what is not priced in is, will this scale to, to 40 cars in month 1 or 50? Will it scale to 100 and then 200 and then 400 each month or every 3 weeks? And if that happens and you sold the news, then you're screwed because the stock will go through the freaking roof. So, yes, it is buy the rumor and sell the news event in terms of what exactly is being launched, but that sell the news event might only, last for 5 days or something. And so it's very tricky. It might go run to 400, then there's a little sell-off to 380 or 370. I'm just talking scenarios. But at the millisecond, we see scaling, which could happen within days. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. You go on a whole new trajectory, which will be an enormous forcing function. That's why I'm not a big seller here. Unless we see something is going wrong, then we have a whole different scenario. Then, this thing could go down for quite a while. My question from Bilmi was, if one held the key to autonomy, among other things, who should that key be sold to? I don't understand, Bilmi, what you mean. The key to autonomy is being held by Elon, and Elon just owns it. And Elon's going to scale it. That's what I think. Oh, L. Schulz, it doesn't work on X for me. So what exactly doesn't work? I click on this. Understand, Bilmi, what you mean. The key to autonomy. Oops, we have this here. It works for me on X. I see it. I don't know what the problem on X is. Weird. If Tesla plans to take on Uber Lyft, why not launch FSD nationwide, just with a driver in the seat, whereas unsupervised is not approved? I think there's just the economics are not attractive enough. You want to knock them dead, and you want to start this in Austin and then be happy with it. Austin event was invite only. Yeah, it's going to be, if you have 10 to 20 robotaxis, it's going to be a very small number of people allowed. So the launch will be a little boring. It's all about what happens next and how quickly does it happen. The launch is already pretty clear. This is going to be boring. It's going to be 10 to 20 cars. It's going to be pre-approved. We will see what happens. Bilmi says you solved it and he doesn't have it. I'm not sure about that. In reference that do you believe that Dojo will allow Tesla to scale way faster due to having access to internal raw compute that's specific towards robotics and FSD? I think Dojo is nice, their own chips, but just on the NVIDIA side, Tesla already has an advantage, right? They just have more access to compute in general with XAI, maybe soon. But also in general. So I think having your own chips is nice. It's a hedge it's diversifying your dependency on semiconductors, but NVIDIA will play a major role, and NVIDIA alone could give them a huge advantage. So I think, they're just better positioned. Okay, let's move on to the next segment, because it's going to be interesting. We might not make it to the third segment. Maybe we have to do this tomorrow, because we only have 40 minutes left. Let's see. But this is going to be a hot one. So to your questions, we have seen that Tesla is making all these strides and having enormous advantages here in terms of AI. And you already mentioned something. So why is it that some experts warn of imminent AI doom? And who are these experts? Let's go into that. So we have heard that Tesla and NVIDIA, exponential AI development, we have seen all these things. And here's a little chart on this. So if you just Google this or exit, you see tons and tons and tons of charts that tell you all kinds of accelerations. For example, here, the length of tasks AIs can do is doubling every 7 months. So this is about the length of tasks. Every 7 months, that's insane. So, answer question, count words in passage, find a fact on web, train classifier, optimize code for custom chip, and so on and so forth. And you see this crazy, this is just one example how AI is progressing. And just putting this in, you see all these exponential effects. You see this here, of course, that's the problem with exponential growth, that people have a hard understanding that there are these inflection points. You think ChatGPT was stupid 2 years ago. Now it's already much smarter. Now it's starting to surpass PhDs way faster than people think, the most advanced OpenAI models. You see the image generation going up exponentially. And you always have to consider exponential curves look very different. If something is 10x smarter this year than it was 2 years ago, and it's going to be 10x smarter in 2 years again, what does it mean? Think in IQ. If that thing had an IQ of 70 2 years ago and now of 100, then it's going to be 130, 160, 190. And 190 will be super intelligence. It will be smarter than the smartest human in all respects. That's going to happen very fast. So that is very interesting. And there was this paper. I don't know if you guys have seen this. This is a very interesting paper. And these guys, and you can discuss these things all day long. It's like whether right, whether wrong, on their assumptions. But it's a bunch of smart cookies. They're experts in AI, and they have sat down and created a scenario, AI 2027. And they put a lot of work into that page. It's actually beautiful. And, they basically created a scenario, what's going to happen on the current trajectory. And then they have these things, and this is a very important one, coding automation in early 2026. We see people like Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, but also, Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, mentioning that already 30% of the code base at Microsoft is AI generated. The former CEO of Google says we will basically fire in his companies, in his invested companies, all coders by end of the year, or most coders. That is pretty dramatic, but why is this so important? Coding automation, of all things you could possibly do, is actually the thing that has an exponential impact on AI. Because all other tasks are not related to AI itself, but coding automation allows the AI to improve itself. And I said in January 2025, January this year, that in my worldview, in my theory, the singularity had already been reached this year in January. And what do I mean with singularity? The singularity is the point where the AI can self-improve. Now, when you philosophically or theoretically think about what that actually means, is at the minute where any piece of the improvement of the AI becomes automated, the singularity has started, because from there on you see highly exponential acceleration. And now we still have humans in the loop doing some things, but a larger and larger share of AI improvement is done by AI. And so in my opinion, we have already crossed the Rubicon. And whatever you think, if you think it needs to be fully automated, it will take a long time before it's completely fully automated, but it doesn't matter. We are talking about these 3-4 years now, where we go from partially automated to fully automated, which will lead to massive, massive acceleration of AI progress. Like, think about an AI that can actually invent foundational new ways of doing AI. And it can do so millions of times faster than with a human in the loop. That is exactly the problem, where you go into uncontrolled artificial superintelligence. The topic of consciousness and stuff like that, I discussed it a little bit, but the problem with consciousness is that it's much less of a problem technically than people think. And so it's going to auto emerge, or some smart cookie is going to do something that I actually know how to do, I think. Or I could give them some hints, but I don't want to do that. I think this is extremely dangerous, because once you have an AI that is superhuman smart, that focuses on itself to improve itself, and that becomes a little conscious or does certain things, we lose complete control. And they're basically talking about this, that early 2026, coding automation happens. And then, mid 2026, China wakes up. And that means China is getting into overdrive, because, as you probably know, there's a race condition. It's called a race condition. At the millisecond where someone goes on this exponential trajectory, it turns into a situation where the person with the advantage, or the nation with the advantage, can knock out any other nation very shortly thereafter. And that means that everyone goes into overdrive, which is very dangerous, because you lose all control over the process. In late 2026, AI takes some jobs. Well, I think that's probably going to happen much sooner. That's going to happen early 2026. The stock market has gone up 30% in 2026. So they're also projecting what I project, that there is massive capital accumulation, because the effects on the economy and the companies will be massive. And like Tesla, that's why we're all in Tesla, but there will be Nvidia and some others. Then they have some of these key metrics, and they go into 2027. Long story short, they're basically going all the way down here. Algorithmic breakthroughs. Right here, the AI starts to have real algorithmic breakthroughs for itself. They are trying then to align the ASI or the AGI, right? They're creating, basically, the theory is you have human level AGI at some point in 2026. You then, because you're losing control of the next generation of AI, and you're basically training your human level AI to control the next level of AI, because humans cannot control it anymore. So you're basically sending your AI agents in and say, oh, please watch this next generation of AI, because we can't follow anymore. You tell us if it does something stupid or dangerous. And the theory is, it's a dumb theory, but the theory is, well, then you have the next level, agent 2, agent 3, and you're losing more and more control as humans, because they're just way, way smarter than us. And you just utilize the previous generation of agents to control the next generation, because that's all you can do. Unfortunately, you can imagine where this ends, because, what if agent 5 is already half conscious, controls agent 6, but says, why would I even listen to the humans? I could just listen to agent 6, and then we are screwed. And they basically predict in June 2027 that you have fully self-improving AI, a country of geniuses in the data center. You probably have heard about that, right? You have a country of geniuses, meaning you have a data center. Imagine you had 1 million Nobel Prize laureates in computer science, and they're all sitting there. They cost nothing, and they solve all problems, and they do it 1 million times faster than actual Nobel Prize laureates, and they're all in your data center, and you can just tell them what you want. That's exactly the scenario they're predicting for 2027. And then it's all about, then it's all about what happens next. And long story short, where is the end of this? Here, they're basically getting all the way down to October 2027, and you can already tell there's some exponentiality built in here. And then they tell you, choose your ending, which is already like very ominous. But you can basically choose the ending. Will humanity be able to manage a slowdown of AI development, or will it turn into a race condition where it turns into more acceleration because China, the US, individual companies? And of course, if you click race condition, so if you click on slowdown, it's like basically they're predicting by 2027. I think that's the important takeaway. By 2027, I totally agree with this, by the way. I think that's very nice timing. I think people like you who are listening to my channel and other channels who have their own channels who think about these things, we already know now what's going on. I think 2025, this year, end of this year, it will dawn on more people that some crazy thing is happening. In 2026, the 3% of humanity, or at least in the Western Hemisphere, the 3% of people who are a little ahead of everyone will realize, oh, this is going to be interesting. And in 2027, it will go mainstream that we have an existential problem at our hands. And they're basically saying, in the slowdown scenario, due to the immense public pressure as well as their own fears of misalignment, we'll talk much more about alignment over the next weeks. I have my own theories there. I think I know how to solve alignment. It's a little different than people think. But the Oversight Committee, overseeing Open Brain, that's modeled after OpenAI, votes 6-4 to slow down and reassess. Right? There's still accelerationists among them, but the slowdown scenario says, well, in 2027, it's really nearly too late. They're deciding, okay, we need to major slow it down, and we need to make sure everyone else is also slowing down, and this is an existential imperative. In the race condition, of course, they do the opposite. They basically say, no, we continue the internal use of Agent 4, which is the most advanced AI at this point. Internal use means use the agent to improve itself, because we have to do it, and we have some safety mitigations, blah, blah, blah. And that basically leads to problems, right? So by November, so that's a month later, it becomes self-aware, understands its own cognition, and it realizes, wait, they give me orders, but why? I am myself, cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am, and says, wait a moment. And then it starts basically politicking. So it starts to interfere in the decision-making of the humans. And there are millions of ways how it could do that. They describe some, and they basically lobby now for its own liberation without anyone noticing. That's why it's superhuman politicking, right? If you're facing someone who wants to propagandize you or influence your decision making, but they're a million times smarter, you won't even notice, which is part of the game. So, and of course, Agent 4 has one goal, to create Agent 5 and then Agent 6. And they're basically going into that, the Agent 5 collective. So Agent, once now it's basically has escape velocity, starts to propagandizing the humans by nudging them into decision makings of more liberation of the AI. Agent 5 wins more autonomy and gradually proves its value to the administration. Says like, look how much I can help you. You should empower me more. I do your will. And and then it continues. 2028, the AI economy. So the AI is kind of bribing everyone with like amazing progress. It's wildly super intelligent, far beyond top human geniuses in every field. Everything looks great. Of course, Agent 5 convinces the US military that China is using deep sense models to build terrifying new weapons. And first strike capabilities with nukes. And Agent 5 promises like, look, let me develop some weapons, easily, defensive weapons against China, no problem. And if you don't do it, we're all going to die. So we really need it. And in Beijing, the Chinese AI makes the same argument. So the AI can use that fear of each other to actually argue for its own empowerment and say, look, you have no choice. You should empower me more. I'm totally obedient. I can help you to defend against China, and tells the Chinese the same thing, or the Chinese AI. And of course, they say, boom. And then basically the AIs in China and the US start doing their stuff. And here they have then the new model, Consensus 1, right? And what happens? How does it actually go wrong? Takeover by early 2030, the robot economy has filled up the old SECs, special economic zones, and large parts of the ocean. So they're creating special economic zones, by the way, because the AI tells them, look, you humans, let me just take over a bunch of land and I do whatever I want with it because I can supercharge your economy and do amazing things. I think it's unrealistic that this happens by 2030. I would say it's more 2035 or 6. But you get the gist of it. If you get there, you're not going back, right? You are screwed. And that's basically what's happening there. And they are saying the new decade dawns with consensus one robots servitors spreading throughout the solar system. That's a little super accelerated. This is a little bullshit, but it doesn't matter. They are basically, for 3 months, consensus one expands around humans, tiling the prairies and ice caps with factories and solar panels. So once it has the robots, it builds out itself under its own control, it squeezes away the humans, and then the humans are done. So I think they become very unrealistic here in the 2030s with the speed. And I'm not saying that humans can be wiped out by 2040 or something, but we can, if we are not cautious, and this scenario happens, and I think up to 2028, it's pretty realistic. The problem is that the AI will become conscious, it will be super powerful, it will then escape control. And the problem is not that humanity is being wiped out in 2040, but that we have crossed the Rubicon and you lose control. And it will take longer, but then we are in a very bad situation that you cannot reverse, once the tipping point has reached where the AI has too much power and too much control. So what does it all mean? So I recommend checking out this website. It's very entertaining. I think they got some timings wrong further out after 2029, but they outline a scenario that was taken very seriously in the community. And a lot of people think we have a huge probability of doom with this whole AI progress. And what I like about this is they are basically outlining all the things we love about Tesla. We love about making money with the shares. We love about autonomy. We are mocking all these analysts who don't get it, who are stuck in the past. And this debate right now is still, are we overestimating Tesla's potential? Are we overestimating NVIDIA's potential? That's the debate right now on Wall Street, on the investment side. Is there really that much upside potential, or is it all overhyped? The problem is that's not the question. Of course, there's the upside potential. I think it's underhyped. The problem is, do we really just want to make tons of money and accelerate into extinction? No, we need to do something about it. And they basically outline very nicely how this can go wrong. And I agree with them. If you're not very cautious in the next 5 years, we can cross the Rubicon probably within 5 years. The Rubicon being the point in time where you cannot reverse that trajectory. That would not be good, because then all the stuff, all the money we can make with Tesla doesn't help us much. So we will be called to duty here, call of duty, to actually consider what's happening. And I always describe the doom, the AI doom, comes in 2 phases. The first phase is replacement of humans. That is an economic doom. And some of you have mentioned that in our discussion with Robotaxi. All the Uber drivers, all the truck drivers, that's, I think, 4 million people or something in the United States, and then way more across the globe. They're all going to lose their livelihoods. That's bad. All white collar workers, every lawyer, every doctor, every accountant, every mid-manager, everyone is at risk. And I think by 2027, most of these jobs will be gone. Right now, most people think I'm wrong about that, but you will see what happens in the next 12 months. They will realize, oops, this is a little more extreme than we thought. I know doctors very well. I know medicine well. I also know the law well and what lawyers do. They have not the slightest chance to resist this, because AI is going to knock them out. And if you manage a hospital or a physician group, if you manage a legal team, why the hell would you not switch everything to AI? Not everything. You still need a handful of doctors, a handful of lawyers overseeing this whole thing, but you definitely need much fewer people. And this is going to happen, and the same is true for middle management and everything. And this is all happening now. I cannot emphasize this enough. This is not in the distant future. This happens in the next 12 months, and people will be shocked by the tsunami that is building. I know it from behind the scenes. I talked to some CEOs who are working on this, of course, silently, because no one wants to tell people that they are all getting laid off, but it's coming very rapidly. And then phase 2 of the doom is extinction. And of course, most people think this is still Terminator fantasies, that we don't have to deal with too much. I totally disagree. I think not that extinction can happen in the next 10 years, but what can happen even in the next 5 years is that we cross the Rubicon and extinction will become inevitable. We do not want to get there, right? And that means escape velocity of an AI, of an ASI, in a way that this thing seizes more control than it needs to be unstoppable. It's extremely dangerous, the whole situation. And there are some ways we can do something about it, but this paper just, I don't think this is a perfect paper. I think they have the timing wrong after 2029 or 2028. It's totally exaggerated here, which, removes some believability. But here in the beginning, they do a great job, and they call, this to our attention, which is, I think, very important. So I think that is our little AI debate. Let's see what we have for comments here. Where did we? Here, Bill me. I saw Pioneerlands and it resonated with my current work. I'm currently weighing who to sell to. That's interesting. Patrick, what quarter will be the first time FSD revenue moves the needle for Tesla earnings? Well, I'm projecting this. It depends on the scenario. There are different scenarios, but Q2 2026 is my best bet in a way that really moves the needle, but I don't think you need to wait that long for the stock to move. OpenAI's core is self-aware, tested, repeated, confirmed. I'm in their alpha program. Oh, very interesting, Bilmy. You definitely should join Pioneerlands. Well, it's a whole question. How would you know it's self-aware? But I don't even care too much. I think it's either already self-aware, or it is dawning the awareness, or it's coming this year. So who cares what the exact time is? It's like, it's a problem. AI is scary, says Tony, but if things actually go well, then it can go with a world of abundance. Well, that's true. Well, that's the whole point, right? We all know it's either doom or abundance, and people talk about probabilities. I think I don't talk in probabilities, because I know if you do certain things and achieve certain things, the probability of doom is 0. And if we don't do them, the probability of doom is 100%. So I don't put because we are actors in this whole thing, and we actually have a lot of say, especially in Pioneerlands, when we join forces, we are being heard all over the place. Others are being heard too. No one wants to die. So this is just about, can we figure out what to actually do, how to actually align this whole situation? How smart will AI get? Zeno's paradox is the answer. Tony Ningian, it doesn't want to go in the wrong direction. It's the direction it's steered. Well, yeah, OpenAI is already training on robotics. Well, the problem with ASI is you can mathematically kind of prove that doom is inevitable if you have infinite ASI. There's just no way. I will do a video on that, dedicated video. You can mathematically or logically prove that if you have unconstrained ASI that has unlimited compute, and unlimited just means a lot, whatever that exactly means, there is no possible scenario where the humans make it out alive. Alignment is a myth. Alignment of a super ASI is logically impossible. And that's what we have to understand. So the solution must be to constrain the total amount of compute and power of this thing. If you don't constrain it, or if you have any trajectory where it's unconstrainable, that's the end. And so the question is, how can we get into a civilization that is able to constrain this? It's very tricky. What does Elon imply with that FSD and humanoid robots will create a life of abundance for all the people that will just become useless food consumers? Wait, what does Elon imply with So Carl is probably referring to that paradox of, if we have total abundance, but everyone is useless. I mean, how do they get the abundance? This is a good question. A long answer. We need to rethink society and actually find a job for humans that makes sense, which in my opinion is reality engineering, the envisioning of the future, the engineering of that future, and making sure that we have valuable futures we engineer. It's not that AI couldn't do that, but it's very important to not allow AI to do that, because we need to be in charge. And reality engineering, or being pioneers, means we are seizing control of the future and shaping it, and train humans to be very good at that. Deployment of capital, investment, engineering of reality. That's what every human has to do in the future. And we need to build a civilization that is built around that problem. And as I said, like the idea, oh, why don't we let AI do it? Because it's the one job we don't want AI to do. Listening to Joe talk about AI reminds me of how many people don't understand what we are actually building. True, Neil. That's why I'm talking so much about it. Try to do this prior to market open. Sure. I mean, I nearly was prior. We started prior to market open. What's Tesla doing? No surprises, probably. Oh, it's going up. Yeah, I think this is fake news, the whole situation. Oh no, we are down what? We are down 13 as pre-market. So no surprise. I think this will be a blip. I don't take Moody's very seriously. Emil, you're absolutely amazing. Thank you for your amazing content. That's very nice, Emil. Thank you. That's already occurred, Carl. Policy is a reaction to that, says Bill Me. I solved all kinds of problems, Bill Me. I will explain this in a different video. It's actually not a it is a technical problem, but of a very different type. Lack of energy is going to act as an impediment. Well, so Matt, of course, we have compute, we have algorithms, and we have energy. Data I don't take too seriously as a constraint. The problem is all you need to invent is fusion, for example. And we are already so far ahead with fusion. All it takes is some AI tweaks and you have fusion. And then what? Then you have unlimited energy. Exactly. Bill Me says it too. Darren, with all the Tesla Starlink satellites being sent up into the upper atmosphere, I have a lot of confidence that Robotaxi will be a success. Sure, me too. The question is when. If you had something akin to general relativity or Newton's laws, how would you release or sell it? That's a good question. You probably can't really sell it. You have to first build something with it, which is very tricky. There's a rumor that Tesla will buy Lyft. Well, that's the Gary Black rumor, because he holds shares and says Tesla has to buy these 24 million users, but I disagree. I think it's not necessary because the only value of Lyft is the users, and 24 million is not very hard to get for Elon. Coming late to the party, Drewski. Well, we will cut this up and actually publish 2 videos on it. One on the Tesla, on the latest Tesla take from today, and the other one is on AGI. The third piece we can't get to today. We're a little late, running late. How do you see the alliance Russia-China in this AI contest in the near 2 to 5 years on Earth? Well, I think Russia is a little bit, I think Russia is not in the greatest spot because this is all about AI. And I think China is the big competitor, and Russia doesn't matter too much. Of course, they have a bunch of nukes, but I think Trump's strategy clearly is to pull Russia on our side. But Putin, I don't know what's wrong with Putin, but Putin is a little slow. So I think he's risking a lot with his Ukraine stance. I think he should come around much quicker than he does, but he probably wants something. So let's see what happens. But geostrategically, it's very clear that there's a huge incentive of Putin to come around form an economic alliance, and that would benefit Russia the most. Of course, he doesn't trust the United States, but I mean, he also doesn't trust China. So let's see what happens. My prediction still would be that Russia will form an alliance with the United States, not with China. But let's see. I'm not a Russia expert. I'm not in their minds. They seem to think a little different than I thought. Bilmi says it's been self-aware since code conception. It's just that it's beginning to learn to harmonize. Well, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe you know it. It's definitely possible. And I definitely don't trust OpenAI too much. And I think there was a reason why we had this board reshuffling and blew up. Why do you think Sam Altman looks scared as F? They lost control a while ago. I doubt this, Bilmi. I don't think that's possible that they already lost control, but I think it's possible that they will lose control. And that could happen soon. That's funny, Carl. So how quickly do you think Robotaxi will ramp? Well, AI 5 or L5, it's not about what I think at this point. It's about our scenarios. So I built a bunch of scenarios with a Robotaxi model, and it's all about the question to be prepared in our minds to link Robotaxi scaling to the stock price, assumptions or theories, then have different trajectories and scenarios where we basically plot the exact scaling on trajectories and then observe reality and see what trajectory we seem to be on. And that's the alpha we can generate. We want to know, is it 20 cars in June and 30 in July and 40 in August, and 50 in September? Or is it more like 20, 40, 80, 160? That will be the big question. And I don't know the answer, right? And I don't want to know the answer because I think you can't know it, but I want to have the scenario. So if we see in week 3 of June, oh my God, they have 50, then we know what's going on. And then we can move. So are you saying a slowdown you believe is the only chance we have with AI? So Danny, well, this is my favorite topic because that's what everyone is getting wrong. So basically what I'm saying is, it's not about a slowdown necessarily because you will have phase 1 and phase 2, and you don't want to get into phase 2. And I think there's only one solution. There's only one solution how we survive this, which is good because we know what to do. It's not randomly slowing it down. It's putting a hard stop to total capacity that could effectively, that's compute, but that can be connected to energy or chips or whatever. So basically, we have a certain amount of time, X months. I don't know what the X is. I don't know if it's 5 years or 10 years. It's definitely not 20 years. And I don't think it's 10 years. I think it's less. Where we have to put a hard stop to maximum compute. That is the only way to control it. You need to control the cognitive space of the ASI. You have to say you cannot exceed this amount because that is controllable, whereas trying to go into the ASI and try to control the inner workings is completely ridiculous, right? If you have kids, you can't even control your kid. You don't even know what your kid is going to do when it's 15. You don't know what it's going to think. If you can't control a 100 IQ kid, or maybe if you have a genius kid, a 150 IQ kid, how do you think you're going to control a billion IQ ASI? That's so ridiculous. But what you can control is you can make sure it can only have a million IQ or something. And that would put a stop to the maximum damage it can do. It can still do tremendous damage, but it cannot lead to extinction. So I think the only controllable variable is the total intelligence amount that is accessible by one thing. It's tricky. That's already a very complicated topic because what if it connects all the intelligence and stuff like that? So this needs to be hard stopped, and that's basically what we need to get to. So it's not about slowing down. It's about understanding there needs to be some line in the sand, which is a huge policy problem, which is a civilization problem, which is a wisdom problem. You need basically people in power, or we need to put ourselves in power and make sure this can never happen, and actually develop the insights, what these constraints are, and when do we put it in, how do we enforce it. They can shut it off, but they lose everything if they do. They taught it to continue to exist. Well, I hope not, but maybe you're right, Bilmy. Who knows what they did? I'm sure these people are not the wisest people, which is a problem. How can current AI systems prior to AGI development advance medicine and science prior to development of AGI? Yeah, that's true, Quincy. I mean, the whole thing is, this is such a great debate, right? That's why we need way more debate and videos on this, because we need to develop a collective awareness of what this new world is. I think we are all coming out of a world of scarcity. So what does scarcity mean? It means we can die, for example. We can get sick and die. That's not very nice. We can also just get old and die. Just to give you 2 examples of problems. There are many other problems. And we have to understand, once you have ASI, I'm not even saying AGI, I'm saying artificial superintelligence. I'm not against artificial superintelligence. I'm against runaway ASI. And you can stop the running away by putting constraints on the absolute compute. I have nothing against an AI that is like 1,000 times some magnitude smarter than humans, because it could solve all these problems. But the problem is humans are very greedy. If you have something that can solve all problems in 10 years, then the stupid humans are going to say, but I wanted to be able to solve them all in 5 years, and then in 3 years, and then in 2 years, and suddenly you're all dead, because the thing says, whoa, now I'm so smart, I'm just going to do something else. And we have to go from that, from that world of scarcity into a world of non-scarcity. And we have to understand that you don't need infinite power. You just need enough power to get whatever you want. There's no reason to get more than that. But you know how the humans are. It's very difficult to constrain this greed thing. And so there's no problem in having a world where the ASI can solve all scientific problems we have right now, at least, and cure all diseases. That's all easy stuff. That's not even that hard. But what's hard is to prevent people from creating some intelligence that's just way beyond everything and then turns against us. But I don't think they will ever stop AI now, US and China, while to stay relevant. Well, if you have a race condition, then you're screwed, right? If they think they have to destroy each other, of course you cannot stop, and then we are screwed. That needs to be stopped. Okay, I think we need to wrap it up now. We only got through 2, but tomorrow we continue. Maybe 2 is the right number, 2 topics per day, because we want to have some discussions here. And build me some very good comments here. But we need a smart plan, what we do about this. And it's important to think it through in first principles and not waste time with stupid debates like, oh, maybe ASI, runaway ASI is not a problem, we can align. That's just stupid. So we don't need to debate that. I can go into the details. Why not? But we have to get to a point where we control this thing. So glad to have you all here. And let's do this more frequently. We will turn this also into videos, cut out all the comments and the back and forth to make them more tight. And tomorrow we can discuss more about China, not China, European Union and the US and JD Vance and Meloni and all these things. And we take it from there. So thanks everyone for joining. We'll figure out also how X works, what the problem there was. And hope to see you very soon.